Hey guys, Datix here. Dragon Age Dreadwolf has had its name changed to Dragon Age The Veilguard. So let's talk about why, as well as discuss a ton more new information about gameplay, companions, romances, and more ahead of its June 11th unveiling. In an interview with IGN, BioWare's general manager Gary McKay explains that the Veilguard will feature 7 party members and it will feature fun and fluid moment-to-moment combat, while continuing to center strategy via the unique powers of each companion. So yes, it seems the leaks were legitimate. Dragon Age will take a more real-time approach to combat, rather than the more methodical skill casting of its predecessors. For those who don't remember, in Dragon Age Origins 2 and Inquisition, you could queue up abilities and let them play out. Though it wasn't turn-based, it had a strategic feel to it. In the leaks, the game was closer to, say, God of War. Gary McKay does mention that strategy is still there and you'll be leaning on the unique powers of each companion. So BioWare's presentation will include 15 minutes of gameplay from the opening moments of the game, which will help set up the story. Gary says that the Veilguard's combat was a big area of focus and something the team wanted to push forward. The Veilguard will feature an ability wheel designed to give players orders to the 2 companions who can join them in battle. As an RPG, strategy in combat is important as you bring 2 companions to every fight. Each companion brings unique powers and abilities that have direct impact on how you choose to take down the enemies at hand. To add another layer to that strategic element, we're introducing a new ability wheel where you can pause the action and set up your next move, whether it's your companion's abilities or your own. The ability wheel opens up a huge amount of strategic possibilities, giving players the ability to control the flow of combat and link powerful combinations of abilities between players and their companions that can quickly turn the tide of any battle. We think we've found an exciting balance between fun, fluidity, and strategy for every encounter. Though pausing combat and using powers aren't new to the Dragon Age series, it seems their focus is. I grew up with games like Dragon Age Origins, so I miss the old school tactical feel of games, but I completely understand that people want a more fast and fluid combat these days. It seems like they're really trying to marry the two, though game on game we received less and less abilities and skills to use, reducing our tactical possibilities. Even if he claims there are a huge amount, I remain unconvinced this movement-to-movement combat shift will be a good move for the series, but we'll have to wait and see for ourselves. Being able to quickly link combinations of abilities together and combo off reminds me a bit of Mass Effect Andromeda, and if the combat is at all like that, I wouldn't complain. It will be interesting to see how companions enter the picture though. Speaking of companions, why the name change? In the conclusion of Dragon Age Inquisition's DLC, spoiler alert, you learn that Solus is the god called the Dreadwolf, and he aims to tear down the Veil. You can see where they're going with this. Gary said Solus is still very much part of the story of Dragon Age The Veilguard. The team wanted a title that reflected a really deep and compelling group of companions. One thing that's really important to remind fans is that every Dragon Age game is a new and different experience, and this game, more so than ever, is about you and your companions, a group that you must rally to fight by your side. We can't wait for players to meet, connect, and form their own personal relationships with the unique companions that make up the Veilguard. That's the spirit of the game, or this story. Choosing who will join you on your adventure, fight alongside you, and be there by your side in the end. So in essence, the change is simple. The story is about you and your team, not about the villain. Though I much prefer the name Dreadwolf, I can understand the change. It was called Dragon Age Inquisition after all, not Dragon Age... what was the villain's name again? Corypheus or something? Doesn't matter. It does seem like they want to make the focus of this game your companions, which is why they have 7 instead of 9. Each of the 7 unique characters that make up your companions will have deep and compelling storylines where the decisions you make will impact the relationships with them as well as their lives. You'll unite this team of unforgettable heroes as you take on a terrifying new threat unleashed on the world. Naturally, the Dreadwolf still has an important part in this tale, but you and your companions, not your enemies, are the heart of this new experience. We actually think sticking with Dreadwolf would have been a safer choice. Dreadwolf is a cool name after all. In the end, it was most important for us to have a title that was authentic to the companions that are the heart of this adventure we've created. We've worked through development to create really incredible backstories for each companion that intersect with the main narrative in meaningful ways. And that's personally what I like to see. I don't like it when companions are their own side content. I like it when it links back to the mainline mission in a meaningful way, which surprisingly isn't very common in these kinds of games. Every game in the series tells its own unique story, and the title is an important element to help set the stage for the next standalone adventure, inclusive of its own hero, companions, narrative arc, villain, settings, etc. Notice that he says a new terrifying threat, so though Solus is still the antagonist, he won't be the only godlike figure you'll contend with. Yet another reason they chose to rename the title, but this game has been in the works for over a decade. Cancelled at one point, brought back, so what can we expect? After Dragon Age Inquisition launched, the studio was given an incredible opportunity to explore, test, and validate a variety of gameplay concepts as we worked to determine what the next Dragon Age could look like. We brought everything to the table which, yes, even included a multiplayer concept. The time we spent experimenting and iterating gradually taught us a lot. This work and the amazing support from EA helped us refocus on creating an incredible single-player game with all the choices, characters, and world building you'd expect from us. The fact that EA pushed them towards focusing on the single-player experience is a surprise to be sure,
but a welcome one.
So who are the Veilguard? As you know, the Veil is a spiritual barrier that's very much physically keeping the world safe from the nasties that reside in the Fade, like powerful demons, for example, that you spend most of Inquisition trying to contain. At the end of the DLC, you learn that Solus is the Dreadwolf, a godlike figure mentioned throughout Dragon Age's lore. He created the Veil and now has decided he made a mistake and it should come down. As Gary McKay says, the Veil needs guarding. But it wouldn't be a Dragon Age game without making the main character and their companions special in some way. The biggest clue I can share is that you and your companions that make up the Veilguard are central to taking down a new evil threat unleashed upon Thedas. It might not just be Solus. So yes, you and your companions will have a rich storyline, but Gary isn't quite ready to discuss who your companions are just yet. Perhaps he will in the gameplay reveal we'll be getting on June 11th. He does, however, talk about romances. We spend a lot of time making our companions feel authentic based on unique experiences within this larger fantasy world, which in turn makes the relationships you form with them feel even more meaningful. We've tapped into Dragon Age's deep lore and explored its most iconic factions to bring each of the 7 companions and their stories to life. I won't spoil next week's reveal, but I can say we created a story where you can impact the world and the companions that surround you. Player agency is important to Dragon Age The Veilguard experience and allows each player to form unique personal connections with their companions of choice. And yes, you can romance the companions you want. This means all 7 of the companions are romanceable by any character if you choose to pursue that line. You are the hero of the story after all. What he also hints at is that they're tapping into having a companion from different factions. So what could the factions be? Well, we have the Templars and the Circle of Magi, which stand out as central factions narratively within all the games. It wouldn't at all be surprising if we see one character from each of those. Then we have the different races like dwarves and elves. We also have the Grey Wardens and we have the Chantry and more. At this stage we can speculate all we want, but we'll have to wait and see if the choices for romance are as terrible as they were in Inquisition. Let me know below what your predictions are. The decision to reduce the number of companions available to 7 is that it's the right number for the story we're telling. Each one is intended to represent a unique faction or element from Thedas and will feature their own arc with stories of love and loss, each with meaningful choices and emotional moments. So like discussed, they're packing each companion in with a lot more content. As you accompany your companions to unravel their backstory and earn their loyalty and friendship, you'll visit more regions of Thedas across a deeper variety of biomes than any Dragon Age before it. Dragon Age Inquisition had a ton of different biomes, some would even say too many, so this is a big statement. I feel like he's hinting that each companion will lead you to exploring a different area, giving you a different narrative push. The main character though will be new. You aren't piloting the Inquisitor just like you didn't pilot Hawk or the Warden in the titles that came after them. Games across the Dragon Age franchise are never designed as a game over game continuous storyline. There are familiar arcs, factions and heroes important to the overarching Dragon Age universe that weave through the new story we're telling. The previous game's characters and events aren't the anchor of Dragon Age The Veilguard. It's about your adventure with a brand new cast of companions that you must rally to fight against a powerful force. I don't want to get too deep into spoiler territory, but I can say that the Dreadwolf is not the only god players need to be worried about. So like mentioned, yes, Solus won't be the only god. This makes sense as at the end of Trespasser, Solus, though powerful, is quite respectful to the Inquisitor. He would make a fantastic antagonist, but without a doubt, BioWare will want to throw some supreme danger in as well in order to give options on how to approach Solus. If you could convince him to back down, or if he gets killed prior to the conclusion, then there would be no threat to contain. This way, there may be an option there while still giving you some stakes. So like IGN mentioned, a lot is riding on the success of Dragon Age The Veilguard. It's been 10 years since we had a Dragon Age title, and BioWare hasn't exactly been swimming in positive reception. As a huge BioWare fan myself, I want this to succeed more than anything. Our next journey to Thedas is fast approaching, so join me as I take you on a ride through the game and more. If you enjoyed the video, you know what to do, especially the 95% of you that still aren't subscribed. Trust me, you'll want to be. For everything RPG, you're in the right place. Ciao friends.